3 weeks ago, wife admitted to an affair, said it happened twice, then 2 weeks later, said it didn't. But she counted it because she went with the intention and couldn't go through with it. Started last October. I noticed one weekend after visiting family, she was different when I returned home. Said my lack of sex drive was driving a wedge between us. News to me, I thought things were good. Later gave another reasoning that she feels she carries the mental load, like when we should start a project and what project is next. There's always a project. The 9 months following that time in October have been filled with arguing, sleeping in separate rooms, her constantly texting her ex-BF from high school number 3. She has said, "How can we keep living like this, and do you want to keep living like this?" but never came out and outright asked me to move out. She wants me to say it. I saw a message between her and number 3 that said, "I would start by cuddling," and her response was, "That would be a good start," with a hearty face and kissy face after. I admitted to checking her text messages 15 years ago and seeing a message from one of her old friend number 2 that said, "You were pretty good last night." She constantly said she can't get past the fact that I checked her phone, never mind the message I saw. Claims she can't remember what that was about. Says I never trusted her, but for several years of our relationship, or marriage, we lived separately because I had to move for work. Not a lot of jobs where we live. And the next job I traveled a lot, and I never worried about what she was doing. Then I hear the first negative thing about number 3 saying, "And you think there's something going on with my friend who is emotionally unavailable." Then, 3 weeks later, she admitted to the affair. Since then, she won't let me sleep when she can't sleep. I have applied for an apartment and it won't be ready for another month. She has said things like, "If we split it, we'll destroy our family." This is going to devastate the kids. The kids are all over 25. If we can't figure this out, then I guess we're not as strong as I thought we were. I wish I never fucking told you. I have started therapy. She has started therapy with the intention of us doing couples therapy later. I don't know where I want to go from here. I have no sanctuary. Work and home are both stressful. I want my own place so I can clear my head, think, reflect, and decide what is next. History. Been with this person for 20 years, married for 10. Okay, let's start at the end and then we'll go back to the beginning where I saw a change. A few weeks ago, my wife confessed to me that she had an affair. She said she slept with this person 2 times. Actually, she didn't say the words. I was away with her son, my stepson, on a weekend trip with his family when she sent me a text message on the last day telling me to come home as soon as I can. We need to talk. Immediately, I had a feeling I knew what the talk was going to be about. On the way home, we chatted small talk on the phone and decided to go to an annual event in a nearby town because it would be fun, and I'm all about avoiding these kinds of things, so let's do that instead. While there, she let out a big sigh and I asked if she was okay. She said no, she said she fucked up. I asked how. She said, by being human. I made some funny-ish comment about how none of us are perfect, because we are human, ignored the situation and went on to enjoy the event. We got home and she asked if we were going to discuss it, or were we just going to pretend nothing is wrong. So I asked how she fucked up. She gave me a look. I said, with who? She gave me another look. The look was because she knew I knew who she was talking about. I had been suspecting things for months. So, now let's go back in time and talk about the events that have happened. First off, my wife is very private about her phone. Snooping is huge no-no for her. I now know why. So, let's get into it. Last October, my wife said I should go see my family in another state because my dad isn't getting younger. I jumped at the chance because it's been so long since I got to visit them alone. I got to day drink with my cousin. It was fun. Haven't done that in a while. The day before I head home, I am on the way to visiting a mutual friend, and we, wife and I, chatted on the phone for a few minutes, and then she said, "Rigato, go! I'll talk to you later," in an ornery voice. I could tell she had a shit-eating grin on her face when she said it. Okay, no big deal. That night, I'm with my cousin watching TV, and I call. No answer, so I send a text saying, "Hey, if you're up, give me a call." I noticed later, past 1 a.m., she hadn't looked at the message. Odd, considering that she can never sleep for shit. Usually, she would see it and text, asking if I am still awake. The next morning, we talk on my way back, and she was very different in how she talked about our future. She was planning on talking to her financial advisor, and it's usually we, us type of stuff. So that was how I was talking, and she said, "Well, you never know what the future holds." Okay, weird. I mentioned that I didn't hear from her, and she said she went to bed early and slept all night. I get home around 2 p.m., and she sleeps all day. More weird. A day later, she tries to initiate some playtime, and I have a failure to launch, which is upsetting but does happen from time to time. I make sure she gets hers, and we go to sleep. Bothered by my situation, I made an appointment with my doctor the next day and told my wife about it after I get home. Her response was, "You know that has been driving a wedge between us." No, I had no clue. This was out of nowhere to me. In the days that followed, she said she feels numb. She can't put a finger on it. She can't seem to put words to how she feels. I did feel all of this was weird, so I checked the garage door because it has a history, and we use the garage door like anyone else would use their front door. I noticed that night I didn't hear from her. The garage door only cycled once, open and close, in the early afternoon, and it didn't cycle again till the next morning, right before she texted me to see if I was awake. I notice over the days that she's texting a lot, so I happen to peek over her shoulder and see that she's texting an ex from her high school days. Let's call him number 3. No biggie. I knew they kept in touch. It never bothered me before. Then I notice she's texting with that ornery look on her face every day, multiple times a day. So I questioned it. I asked if anything was going on, and she said, "When do I have time for an affair?" I said, "Well, I was gone the other weekend." She snapped. In my opinion, she overreacted to that comment. A month later, she was shopping for a dress for an event we planned to attend. She said she had the perfect one that she ordered, but still wanted to look around, so she chose to go to a store that was not nearby. She decided to get a hotel room and stay there overnight. Turns out it was midway between where we live and where number 3 lived. I still haven't gotten confirmation that they met at that time. She hasn't admitted to that yet. But it seemed odd, and she was adamant on going alone. When I suggested driving her there, she made a big deal, asking if I didn't trust her, etc. After she returned, she seemed distant. She insisted on sleeping on the couch. Eventually, after a couple weeks, she gave me reasoning for her questioning of our marriage. She says she carries the mental load. She decides when we start projects and when things get done. Which is true. Things I cover with autonomy are laundry, cutting the grass, and working on the cars. I do all of our own maintenance. The second reason is the one mentioned above. My drive doesn't match hers. She could do it once a day or multiple times a day. We do it once a week, and I thought that was normal. We're always in the middle of projects or cleaning the house, and it's nothing for her to start reorganizing a closet at 11 p.m. I want to go to bed, and by the time she wants to be intimate, it's late, and I really just want to sleep. Probably 2 or 3 times a year I will have a failure to launch. I'm not young, so I thought it was normal. Also, I'm not getting as hard as I used to. Again, thought it was my age and weight. She said I should be able to go multiple times in a night, multiple nights a week, etc. Over the next few months, there are a lot of sleeping in separate rooms, or when she did sleep next to me, she would sleep on the other side of the bed. Before, she always slept right up against me. The texting with number 3 continued, and of course I was curious, so I would try to peek over her shoulder when I could. I once caught a glimpse of her sending a kissy face and hearty face, and it made me wonder. The next time I noticed it, she left her phone open, face up on the chair, so I got up to get her dinner dishes and have a peek, and number 3 said, I would first start with cuddling. Then she replied with, that would be a good start, with a kissy and hearty face after. I tried to let it go, but she could tell I was bothered, so I confronted her and asked what that was all about. She said, I hope he was talking about his wife. Then she continued to make a big deal about it, saying how, if I don't trust her, then we have nothing, etc. It was an argument that lasted hours. Weeks later, she brought up my jealous streak and how I don't trust her and mentioned the text message. I told her that wasn't just normal conversation. She said he was having a bad day and needed a hug. Okay. A couple more weeks go by and she brings it up again, and I again questioned, how does that conversation start? You're not talking about gardening here. Why the hearty and kissy faces after his comment? So she finally admitted that she was ashamed and that it was an inappropriate text message and that she stopped it right there, and she said it never should have got to that point. Okay, finally we got somewhere. At a later time, she brings up another jealous streak of mine. We've had a few weird times in our relationship. She brought up one of them from over 16 years ago where we were on a break. I was planning to move in with her at the same time my housing situation was going to dissolve. She felt she didn't trust that I was moving in for the right reasons, so we took a break. She started hanging out with a guy that she met in the mornings to get her tea that showed her attention. We will call him number 2. She would go to number 2's house till 1 a.m., and she swears nothing was going on. So she used this time to point out my jealous streak. So I fessed up to the last time I checked her phone. It was after her communication with him ended. Or so I thought. We were living together and I had to go out of state for a funeral. When I returned, she was acting weird, so I was young and insecure, so I checked her phone and saw a text message from number 2 that said, "You were pretty good last night." And her response was, "We probably shouldn't do that anymore." Then a day or less after she was frustrated with me about something, maybe she was hangry, I don't know, but she was doing something on her phone, and I asked what she was doing, and she said, deleting text messages. This was 15 years ago. I was young and insecure, and figured if I had confronted her about it, she would just say that she set that up to see if I was looking at her phone. So I buried that deep down and carried on. So this was the next thing for her to make a big deal about now. Over the weeks that followed, she said, "I can't believe you checked my phone." I told her it was a long time ago, and whatever it was in the past. I only brought it up because she was bringing up number 2. She said, "I can't get past the fact that you looked at my phone." She said, "I don't know what that was even about." I said, "Well, I highly doubt you were playing Crazy Eights and he thought you did well." She got defensive and said, "What are you accusing me of?" So my natural response is to back down. She would use that as an example of why she thought I never trusted her. I reminded her that we spent a few years living apart because of work, and I never worried. I would come home every other weekend and visit her and the kids. We don't have kids together. We each brought a kid into the relationship, and they are both older than 25 now. Over the last several years, I had a job where I traveled very frequently. I was never worried, and I always trusted her. If I didn't, those situations would have been impossible. Over these recent months, while we would argue, she would say, "Do you want to keep living like this? How can we keep going on like this?" But she would never say the actual words, "Please move out," or "Please get an apartment." I looked. I had one that I was going to apply to, and I lollygagged and missed it. All the while, deep down, fearing change, wanting to work things out because I didn't get married to then run when things got hard. One night, we argued, and she said she was trying to make things work and get feelings back, and I said that I was too. She threw it in my face that I was looking at apartments and said, "Yay, you're looking for apartments, you're trying real hard." This has been going on for 9 months till she admitted what was going on. The last few months I started pulling away and started thinking about my life without her. I had to. I wasn't seeing progress. She always just found something she couldn't get past. What did it for me was the text message I saw 15 years ago and her response to me admitting that I checked her phone. She was mad that I looked, never mind the message that I saw, and to this day she still denies any wrongdoing. She claims she doesn't remember what that was about. I felt I was being played with. I am her emotional yo-yo, and the string had started to break. The texting with number 3 continued. I just let it be, didn't say anything. Every day was a new my friend number 3 story, telling me about his life and his marital problems. I remember one time I made a smart remark about number 3, and she said, "Excuse me," as if to defend him. Then, a few weeks before she admitted what was going on, I heard her say her first negative thing about number 3. It was something like, "And you think there's something going on between him and I, my friend who is emotionally unavailable." As soon as I heard that, knew that some point in the near future she was going to suddenly want to work things out. Because I am reminded of her time running around with number 2. At one point she eventually wanted us to work things out, and I asked, "What about number 2?" She said he wasn't looking for the same thing. This was also around the same time that I started pulling away. So, now to me it looks eerily similar. Maybe she thought she had a future with number 3 and started to see differently, so, well, still have my obedient husband waiting in the wings. One other thing she said recently was she mentioned that he would never leave the area he was living in. She said she bets that he has a side piece up there that is keeping him there, and the tone she used was somewhat bitter. So after she admitted it, I applied and got the apartment, but it won't be ready till mid-September. The second night I went to bed without saying goodnight. She came to bed being loud to wake me out of a sound sleep and said, "I see you went to be without telling me. I never should have fucking told you. I never should have fucking told you." I tried to ignore her and go to sleep. She wouldn't leave me alone. She kept pawing at me, pulling me close to her. Eventually, I gave in and kissed her, and we had some sad playtime. The next time I told her I wasn't in the mood. She said she understood and sighed and rolled over. The sigh gets me. When she does that, I know she isn't happy. Early on, I learned to respond to it by giving her what she expects. Then she'd roll over toward me and try again. She won't leave me alone, so I give in. PSA for those who aren't as good as they used to be. Some Viagra and a cock ring can get you having sex with the woman who cheated on you, and you can see it in your head during sex and still perform. Just an FYI. Give that shit a shot. I feel like I have been dragged through shit for 9 months, and then to find out my suspicions were correct. Now I feel like she basically rubbed her friendship with number 3 in my face for the last 9 months. Now she suddenly wants to work it out. I am the man of her dreams, etc. She once asked if I was sure I needed to go to an apartment to get space, and I said yes. Later, she thanked me for holding my ground. But she still continues to question it, saying I am running away from our problems and that we can build back our relationship stronger than before. She also claims she's been asking me to move out for months. No, she hasn't. She just said things like, "How can we keep living like this?" She won't say the words like she's playing some legal game. She talks about how guilty she has felt, but she continued to text with number 3, and still with that ornery look on her face, telling me stories about number 3's life. Since D-Day, she said the following things. "If we cannot work this out, then I guess we weren't as strong as I thought we were." She said that I am running away from our problems. She said that if I don't want to work it out, then I need to find another living situation till my apartment is ready. She said we need to work on this for our family. She keeps asking, what are we going to tell the kids? She said that she's been telling me for years about our intimacy problems. That is false. I always apologized when I didn't last as long or for not being as hard as I used to be. She would always say, "You're perfect. Do you hear me complaining?" And one time she grabbed my face and said with conviction, "Did you hear me complain?" So I honestly thought it was fine. She's talked to friends, and their husbands always initiate projects, so she's compared me to others. She said part of my charm is my free spirit, but it's a double-edged sword because it's also what irritates her about me. This week she admitted, or said the second time never happened with number 3. She said she counted it because she went with the intention. Not sure if I should believe that. She's concerned about her son's reaction to our separation because he and I are very close. I am too. I love that kid. He's as much my son as my son that has my DNA. We really aren't planning on telling them the details. I think irreconcilable differences will be the story for now. Since D-Day, I have started seeing a therapist. I don't know how I feel besides being angry and betrayed. If I had to make a decision now with a gun to my head, we're done. But I still love her and want to give it a shot for some reason. I'm stupid. I know. Maybe I'm scared of change. Maybe I am scared to be without her, even though she has been manipulative. Then there's the history. You'll notice there's number 2 and number 3. I haven't mentioned number 1. Early on in our relationship, she started talking to another ex-BF from high school. We will call him number 1. One night, I couldn't sleep and came downstairs and found her on the phone with him. Then she came to bed super horny and initiated playtime. Then later, in another conversation, she mentioned us having a foursome with him and his wife. I said I wasn't interested. There was some weird behavior, and I saw that her email was open. So I looked and saw an email from her, to him saying how it felt good to be in his arms again. I confronted her about it, and she said nothing happened and that they met up and talked about old times. Maybe I am naive, but I don't believe anything happened that time, but still, looking at our history, I feel like she's always looking for something better, and I'm just the old comfy slippers. It's pattern, and I'm getting too old for this shit. I want someone who loves me for me. One other detail about number 3. While I was away the weekend of D-Day, she had gone to meet with number 3. She said there was talk about getting a hotel. Then she said she couldn't do it. She shared the text conversation with me, and I don't remember the details, but he seemed upset at her saying he knew what he was doing and he wouldn't call what they did an affair. Then a couple days after D-Day, she told me number 3 had texted her, and she told him that she told me everything. She has told me that was their last contact. I'm sure there's more details of things said, but looking at what I have typed, it's a lot. I feel like shit and do not know what to do. I haven't sorted through that yet. I feel like canceling the apartment would be a mistake. I think I need my space to think and reflect. I can't do that with her in my face every day. I have no sanctuary. That was lost over the last 9 months. Work is stressful. Home is stressful. I need peace and a place I can actually get some sleep. When she can't sleep, she makes sure I can't either by pawing at me or pushing up against me, etc. If I were to decide that I am done and I have canceled the apartment, then I have to start all over again. And as mentioned above, she would expect me to find a place till my place is ready. Right now, I'm not feeling optimistic. She was a little upset that I started seeing a therapist without the intention of US seeing them. So now she's seeing one with the intention of me joining at some point. She was sure to tell me that her therapist raised an eyebrow to me getting an apartment and thought that was weird. But before we see a therapist together, I think I need to continue my counseling to sort through my shit. things she's done right. She told me I could talk to my cousin about our shit. I didn't tell her how much I told her, but I told her all my suspicions and what I saw. Since then, she came out and told my cousin of her affair. She said she did it because she wanted me to be able to talk to someone. I think she's trying to be accountable, but given all the above, I have concerns she's not as genuine as she is playing it off to be. She says she had nothing to gain by telling me, and also nothing to gain by telling my cousin. Not sure how to read that either. I have no clue what to do, what is right, wrong, or where to go. I spend my days fantasizing about moving away. That is where I am right now. I constantly feel like there is a blender in my lower chest, angry, lost, and I just want to disappear.